The Joe Rogan Experience.
All right, this thing, Netflix, I told them...
What's it called?
It's called The Midnight Gospel.
The Midnight Gospel with Duncan Trussell.
And Pendleton Ward, the guy who made Adventure Time, this cartoon.
Beautiful.
It comes out 4/20.
Look at that.
Netflix, this has never been seen. It's exclusive for your show. They gave us permission.
Goodness.
This is Joey Diaz is in this, and this is a podcast I did.
I'm taking off my glasses.
Yeah, I gotta take mine off. This is a podcast I did with Damien Eccles. Do you know who that is? He was like in the group of kids who got accused of murdering someone in the woods. There's a whole...
No.
Oh, yeah. There's like a whole documentary about him on, I think, HBO. It's like, basically, this dude, I had him on my podcast. He wrote a book on magic. He practices magic. But
Jesus, Duncan.
he was on death row, and they did a DNA test that exonerated him. But he was like about to be executed. He's on death row studying Zen Buddhism. Like a Zen priest was working with him to like basically like, prepare him for his death, So he was badly beaten on death row. Oh. He was almost executed. Then he was exonerated because of DNA. But we did this interview before the show, obviously. And this is just a way that we figured out to take podcasts and put them in.
Hey, once he gets exonerated, before we start this, do they have to pay him?
I don't know. It's a great question. I think maybe part of it that they may, I don't want to say because I have no idea. I think
if the guy's on death row for the wrong reason, it seems like you owe him something.
Well, yeah.
He's literally innocent.
Yeah, I would think so.
He's an actual innocent person that you almost killed, and then you made their life hell.
Yeah.
Imagine the torture of knowing you didn't do something but being accused of that thing.
Well, I know, man.
And knowing it's going to cost you your life and you really didn't do it.
Yeah.
All right, let's play it.
You know how in certain Buddhist traditions,
yeah,
like say Tibetan Buddhism, they talk about, what's the word they use, empowerment?
Sure.
It's like a current of energy that is passed along from master to student. Ceremonial magic is the exact same thing. The Knights Templar started receiving this current whenever they were over there. That's how it makes its way back to Europe. Eventually, it makes its way to the United States through the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, which was the order that Crowley was a member of before he, went off to the OTO. You had MacGregor Mathers, Dion Fortune, the poet W.B. Yeats. All of these people were members of the Golden Dawn. That's how this current makes its way to the U.S. 1 second. Hey, Steve!
What the fuck? You need to shine that light in my fucking eyes?
If that's how you're gonna talk to customers, I'll just take my ship full of cats and find another junk island.
A ship full of cats? Ah, shit. My apologies! Look at all these wonderful gifts and gadgets here. We got a fresh printer, time slapper, and some cans, and... Oh. You want that? A vintage Enlil? Ugh. It ain't cheap, pal. It's gonna be 5 cats.
He's bluffing. I can get it for 3. Watch this. 3.
5.
Fine, Steve. 4. And that's my last offer.
All right. You're taking flakes out of my minnow's mouth, but fine. 4 it is. Send them over.
That is so Duncan Trussell. That's so bizarre.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, man. It was the craziest thing working on that show with Pendleton because he's like we throw the word genius around, but the guy's an actual genius. So it was like really, really, really cool to get to do.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's a combination of your podcast and then some interstitial stuff that is scripted.
It's like basically my character is this guy Clancy who lives in a place called the Chromatic Ribbon where people use multiverse simulators to simulate universes so that they go inside and harvest the technology and sell it. And so my character has a malfunctioning used multiverse simulator that isn't really working to produce technology. And because it's malfunctioning, every single world in it is going through some kind of apocalypse. And so my character goes into his simulator and interviews people in the dying world. So that's basically the idea of the show. So we took podcast dialogue it's basically what happens with, during the apocalypse, what's going to happen? People are going to do podcasts. People are going to still have conversations.
Yeah.
So these conversations, we just set them in these surreal universes where shit's melting down and, where like Clancy meets these various people and kind of learns from them.
What's crazy is you started this a long time ago and it's coming to fruition right when the apocalypse hits.
I know, dude. That's the thing. It's like a little on the nose. I mean, I didn't want...
It's on the nose.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's almost like, it's almost like you knew. It's almost like you had a time, and then the universe is like, this is a perfect time for Duncan shit to come out, and let's coincide it. I mean, look at how bizarre your show is.
Yeah.
How strange, and then the fact that it's a hybrid of podcast conversations and then written stuff. So strange.
Yeah,
it's
man.
Perfect time for it.
I think it is the perfect time for it, and I hope because some of the every guest we chose for this, they all had this really amazing thing to say. Like Eccles in this episode, one of the things he says, I asked him do you feel like you kind of were blessed that you ended up in solitary confinement? Because that's where he woke up. That's where he started meditating. That's where he started studying magic. That's where he started working on himself because there was nothing else to do.
Right.
And in this one, he says, I feel luckier than some millennials out there right now who are completely disconnected. Because that's the coolest thing about him is you would expect a person who'd been on death row to be bitter. He's the sweetest, most genuine, wonderful person ever. And it's whatever went on in the situation of being on the brink of the abyss where he's about to get murdered by the state for something he didn't do. Something about that didn't turn him into someone who was shell-shocked or angry, but really turned him into someone very compassionate and I guess grateful for his life. And that to me, it's he's the Goggins of death row. I mean, if you can be not bitter after being on death row for something you didn't do and getting physically assaulted, just wondering every day if you were going to die, if you can still maintain an attitude of service or contribution to society in some way or another, then any of us can. Any of us can. Any of us can. And to me, that's I hope some of that stuff trickles out from the show into the world. Right now, especially, man. Right now, especially.